Praise be to Allah, the cherisher and sustainer of the worlds. I'm Dr. Ramsha Mushtaq Khan, and today I have the opportunity to present on the topic Man-made disasters and bioterrorism under the kind supervision of Professor Dr. Saira Afzal. Quote of the day: Do not look the other way, do not hesitate. It is within your power to avoid a genocide of humanity. Standing with Palestinians facing genocide is not a debate, it's a duty. Content outline: Introduction to man-made disasters, classification, biological disasters, chemical disasters, oil spillage and forest fires, bioterrorism, and multiple choice questions. By the end of this presentation, the participants will be able to define and classify man-made disasters, explain biological disasters, including their causes, impacts, and examples, describe chemical disasters, their types, and potential consequences, understand the effects and implications of oil spillage on the environment, discuss the causes, prevention, and mitigation strategies for forest fires, and explain the concept of bioterrorism, its potential agents, and associated risks. Man-made disasters, also known as anthropogenic hazards, is a disastrous event caused directly or principally by one or more identifiable, deliberate, or negligible human actions. Man made disasters are the result of human intent, error, or a result of failed systems. They are intentional or unintentional. All kinds of man made disasters affect a person's mental, physical, and social well being. Mainly, they cause loss of life, damage to the nation's economy, social disruptions, and long term damage and widespread effects, for example, in case of nuclear explosions. Reasons for man made disasters: number one, ignorance, carelessness, unawareness, illiteracy, strikes, human error, tourism, terrorism, vandalism, weapons, water and sewage overflow, and chemicals. The following factors contribute to the inevitability of man made disasters. Number one is the size and population densities of cities and overcrowding, intensive utilization of rapid forms of mass transport. Number three, poorly organized emergency services. Number four, a lack of warning to the people. Number five, use of high technology sources of energy. And number six, increasing pressure to mine fossil fuels. The classification includes number one, technological, which include biological disaster, building collapse, forest fires, road accidents, and aviation disasters. Number two is the industrial, which includes chemical and oil spills, chemical disasters, nuclear and radioactive disasters. And number three is warfare, which includes wars and civil conflicts. Biological disaster: the devastating effects caused by enormous spread of a certain kind of living organism that may spread disease, viruses, or infestation of plant, animal, or insect life on an epidemic or pandemic level. In an epidemic level, it indicates a disaster that affects many people in a given area or community. And in the pandemic level indicates a disaster that affects a much larger region, sometimes an entire continent or even the whole planet. For example, the recent COVID-19 and H1N1 or swine flu pandemic. The US Center for Disease Control and Prevention classifies biohazards into four biosafety levels. For example, number one, biosafety level one includes bacteria and viruses, including Bacillus subtilis, some cell cultures, canine hepatitis, and non infectious bacteria. Protection is only facial protection and gloves. Biosafety level two, bacteria and viruses that cause only mild diseases to humans and are difficult to contract via aerosol in a lab setting, such as hepatitis A, B, and C, mumps, measles, HIV protection, etc. Protection is use of autoclaves for sterilizing or biological safety cabinets. Biosafety level 3, bacteria and viruses causing severe to fatal diseases in humans, for example, West Nile virus, anthrax, MERS coronavirus. Protection includes stringent safety protocols such as the use of respirators to prevent airborne infection. Biosafety level 4 includes potentially fatal to human beings viruses like Ebola virus, Marburg virus, Lassa fever virus, etc. And protection includes use of a positive pressure personal suit with a segregated air supply. Prevention of biological disasters. Prevention includes the following measures that should be taken before, during, or after any outbreaks. It includes environmental management, safe water supply, proper maintenance of sewage pipelines to prevent waterborne diseases such as cholera, typhoid, hepatitis, dysentery, etc. Awareness of personal hygiene and provision of for washing, cleaning, bathing, and overcrowding, etc. Vector control. Post-disaster epidemics prevention. The risk of epidemics is increased after any biological disaster. Integrated Disease Surveillance Systems (IDSS) monitors the sources, modes of disease spreading, and investigations of the epidemic. Nuclear and radiation accidents, an event involving significant release of radioactivity to the environment, or a reactor cold meltdown which leads to major undesirable consequences to people, the environment, or the facility. A nuclear and radiation accident is defined by the International Atomic Energy Agency as an event that has led to significant consequences to people, the environment, or the facility. Examples include lethal effects to individuals, large radioactivity released to the environment, reactor cold melt. The examples include Fukushima nuclear disaster in 2011. Following the 2011 Japanese Fukushima nuclear disaster, authorities shut down the nation's 54 nuclear power plants. As of 2013, the Fukushima site remains radioactive, with some 160,000 evacuees still living in temporary housing. Although nobody has died or is expected to die from radiation effects, the difficult cleanup job will take 40 or more years and cost tens of billions of dollars. Atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The United States detonated two nuclear weapons over the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki on 6th and 19th of August 1945 respectively during the World War II. The two bombings killed between 1,29,000 and 2,26,000 people, most of whom were civilians, and remain the only use of nuclear weapons in armed conflicts. An increase in leukemia appeared about 2 years after the attacks and peaked around 4 to 6 years later. The Radiation Effects Research Foundation estimates the attributable risk of leukemia to be 46% for bomb victims. Chemical disaster. A chemical incident is the uncontrolled release of a toxic substance potentially resulting in harm to public health and the environment. Chemical incidents can occur as a result of natural events or a result of accidental or intentional events. These incidents can be sudden or acute or have a slow onset when there is a silent release of a chemical. They can also range from small releases to full-scale major emergencies. Bhopal gas tragedy. The most dangerous chemical accident recorded in history was the 1984 Bhopal gas tragedy in India, in which more than 3,000 people died after a highly toxic vapor methyl isocyanate was released at the Union Carbide pesticides factory. The precautions include industries using harmful and powerful chemicals should be located far away from residential areas. There should be surveys to keep a check on their activity. The government should formulate an emergency plan in case of an accident, and pollution levels should be checked and maintained. An oil and chemical spill. An oil and chemical spill is one of the most devastating environmental disasters that can happen because it affects people, animals, the land, and the coastal waterways. They can kill wildlife, destroy habitats, and contaminate critical resources in the food chain. They can also wreak havoc on the economies of coastal communities by forcing the closure of fisheries, driving away tourists, or temporarily shutting down navigation routes. And these environmental and economic damages can linger for decades. Oil spill hazards. Oil floats on salt water, the ocean, and usually floats on the freshwater, rivers, and lakes. Oil usually spreads out rapidly across the water surface to form a thin layer that we call an oil slick. As the spreading process continues, the layer becomes thinner and thinner, finally becoming a very thin layer called a sheen, which often looks like a rainbow. Depending on the circumstances, oil spills can be very harmful to marine birds and mammals and can also harm fish and shellfish. It destroys the insulating ability of fur-bearing mammals. Deepwater Horizon oil spill Gulf of Mexico. The Deepwater Horizon oil spill was an industrial disaster that began on 20th of April 2010 in the Gulf of Mexico. The US federal government estimated the total discharge at 780,000 meter cube. The Deepwater Horizon oil spill is regarded as one of the largest environmental disasters in American history. Structural collapses are often caused by engineering failure, sudden fall down or cave in of any type of structure due to various natural reasons, for example, corrosion attack, flood, tsunami, tornado, and an artificial reason, for example, tourist attack, under design, arson is called structural failure or collapse, such as building collapse, bridge collapse, dam failure, balcony collapse, etc. Buildings are designed to support certain loads without deforming excessively. The loads are the weights of people and objects. Causes of building collapse include bad design, faulty construction, foundation failure, extraordinary loads, unexpected failure mode, and combination of causes. Effects and consequences of building collapse. The collapse of structures, including building, may result in death or serious injury of employees and the public. It may damage the adjacent structures, and there is a loss of property. The immediate actions include check for injuries and administer first aid. Do not move seriously injured individuals. Communicate number and identity of missing persons to emergency services. And do not enter damaged or unstable building to search for missing persons. Prevention and remedies include always hire professional for building design and construction work, managing materials when building any high rising structure. Do not manage. Use right amount and good quality materials. Understanding reinforcement and foundation. An excellent structure won't sit on a faulty foundation. Using the right steel, there is a big difference between 8 mm, 10 mm, and 12 mm, etc. The professionals know the difference. Using the right concrete mix ratio when doing your reinforcement. The proper and particular mixture is needed. Mixture is different for a bungalow and flat, black cotton soil and sandy soil, pile and raft foundation, etc. Collapse of the World Trade Center. This occurred during the terrorist attack of September 11, 2001, after the Twin Towers were struck by two hijacked commercial airliners. A total of 2,763 people were killed in the crashes, fires, and subsequent collapses, including 2,192 civilians, 343 firefighters, and 71 law enforcement officers. Forest fire. The most common hazard in forests is forest fire. They pose a threat not only to the forest wealth but also to the entire regime, to fauna and flora, seriously disturbing the biodiversity and the ecology and environment of a region. During summer, when there is no rain for months, the forests become littered with dry senent leaves and twinges, which could burn into flames ignited by the slightest spark. Types of forest fire include surface fire and crown fire. Effect of forest fire: loss of valuable timber sources, loss of biodiversity and extinction of plants and animals, loss of wildlife habitat and depletion of wildlife, loss of natural regeneration and reduction in forest cover, global warming, loss of carbon sink resource, and increase in percentage of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Bioterrorism. Bioterrorism is the deliberate release of viruses, bacteria, toxins, or other harmful agents to cause illness or death in people, animals, or plants. These agents are typically found in nature but could be mutated or altered to increase their ability to cause disease, make them resistant to current medicines, or to increase their ability to be spread into the environment. Biological agents can be spread through the air, water, or in food. Some bioterrorism agents, like the smallpox virus, can be spread from person to person, and some, like anthrax, cannot. Bioterrorism may be favored because biological agents are relatively easy and inexpensive to obtain and can be easily disseminated and can cause widespread fear and panic beyond the actual physical damage. A biological weapon is useful to terrorists mainly as a method of creating mass panic and disruption to a state or a country. Smallpox. In 1980, the WHO announced the eradication of smallpox, a highly contagious and incurable disease. Although the disease has been eliminated in the wild frozen stocks of in the world, frozen stocks of smallpox virus are still maintained by the governments of the United States and Russia. Since vaccination programs are now terminated, the world population is more susceptible to smallpox than ever before. Anthrax has been used as a weapon around the world for nearly a century. In 2001, powdered anthrax spores were deliberately put into letters that were mailed through the US postal system. If a bioterrorist attack were to happen, Bacillus anthracis, the bacteria that causes anthrax, would be one of the biological agents most likely to be used. Anthrax is one of the most likely agents to be used because anthrax spores are easily found in nature, can be produced in a lab, and can last for a long time in the environment. Anthrax makes a good weapon because it can be released quietly and without anyone knowing. Anthrax has been used as a weapon before. Classification of bioweapons. These high priority agents pose a risk to the national security and can be easily transmitted and disseminated. For example, SARS-CoV-2, anthrax, smallpox, botulinum toxin, bubonic plague, and viral hemorrhagic fever. Category B are the agents that are moderately easy to disseminate and have low mortality rates. For example, brucellosis, epsilon toxin of Clostridium perfringens. Food safety threats, for example, Salmonella, Shigella, and Staphylococcus aureus, and glanders. Category C are the agents emerging pathogens that might be engineered for mass dissemination because of their ability, ease of production and dissemination, high mortality rate, or ability to cause a major health impact. For example, Nipah virus and hantavirus. Emergency preparedness and response. Before a biological threat, a biological attack may or may not be immediately obvious. In most cases, local health workers will report a pattern of unusual illness or there will be a wave of sick people seeking emergency medical attention. To prepare, build an emergency supply kit, make a family emergency plan, check with your doctor to make sure everyone in the family has up to date immunizations. During a threat, watch television, listen to the radio, or check the internet for official news and information, including signs and symptoms of the disease, areas in danger, if medications or vaccinations are being distributed, and where to seek medical attention if you become ill. And after a biological threat, pay close attention to all official warnings and instructions on how to proceed. Medical services for a biological event may be handled differently due to increased demand. The basic procedures and medical protocols for handling exposure to biological agents are the same as for any infectious disease. Now it's time for the recent updates. Current and developing technologies for monitoring agents of bioterrorism and biowarfare. Because bioterrorism is difficult to predict or prevent, reliable platforms to rapidly detect and identify biothreats are important to minimize the spread of these agents and to protect the public health. These platforms must not only be sensitive and specific, but also be able to accurately detect a variety of pathogens, including modified or previously uncharacterized agents, directly from complex sample matrices. COVID-19, unraveling the clinical progression of nature's virtually perfect biological weapon. The coronavirus disease COVID-19 pandemic has shocked the world and caused morbidity and mortality on an unprecedented level in an era of modern medicine. Evidence generated to date on the virulence and pathogenicity of severe acute respiratory syndrome suggested that COVID-19 may be considered a perfect storm caused by nature's virtually perfect biological weapon. This conclusion is supported by an updated analysis of pathogenesis and clinical progression of this infectious disease. Now, coming to the multiple choice questions. Number one, which microorganisms pose a risk to national security, can be easily transmitted and disseminated, result in high mortality, may cause public panic, or require special action for public health preparedness according to the CDC classification? A. Salmonella species, B. Bacillus anthracis, C. Brucellosis, D. Clostridium perfringens, and E. Influenza virus.
E.
Yes,
B.
the answer is B. The long-term health effects reported 2 to 6 years later after the nuclear attacks on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945 due to nuclear radiation damage are A. Skin burns, B. Chromosomal damage, C. Leukemia, D. Deafness, and E. Cataracts.
C.
G. The answer is C. According to the US Center for Disease Control and Prevention, an infectious agent like HIV, which is difficult to contract via aerosol, is placed at which biosafety level? A. Biosafety level 1, B. Biosafety level 2, C. Biosafety level 3, D. Biosafety level 4, and E. Biosafety level 5.
A.
The answer is B. The spread of COVID-19 has a vast range of biological hazards. Which of the following measures do you think are of no use to combat COVID-19? A. Ventilation of rooms, B. Less crowding, C. Movement of people, D. Wearing face masks, and E. Social distancing.
E.
The answer is C. Movement of people. During transportation of petroleum oil, due to the negligence of a staff, a vast amount of oil is spilled in the ocean. Which of the following is the most significant hazard this oil spillage can cause? A. Destroys the insulating ability of fur-bearing mammals. B. Sinks in the ocean bed and affects marine life. C. Evaporates quickly, causing air pollution. D. Doesn't float on the water's surface, sinking to the bottom. And E. Contaminates water sources used for drinking.
B.
The answer is A. Destroys the insulating ability of fur-bearing mammals. Number 6. Chemical incidents can occur as a result of natural events or as a result of accidental or intentional events. Which one of the following measures is not considered risk reduction for industrial disaster? A. The storage capacity of toxic substances should be restricted. B. Pollution dispersion methods in industries should be strengthened. C. Densely populated areas should be in the vicinity of industrial area. D. Fire warning and handling should be improved. And E. Emergency response plans should be regularly updated.
C.
Yes, the answer is C. Densely populated areas should be in the vicinity of industrial area is not considered a risk reduction for industrial disasters. In a chemical plant, there is a storage area for high hazard equipment and materials. The plant manager wants to ensure proper labeling and signage to raise awareness among workers about the potential hazards present. Which of the following materials or substances should be indicated on the warning signs and labels in the storage area? A. Flammable gases. B. Corrosive acids. C. Radioactive metals. D. Biological toxins. And E. Explosive materials.
D.
The answer is E, explosive materials. The devastating effects caused by an enormous spread of a certain kind of living organism that may spread, the epidemic spread shows a disaster that affects A, many people in a given area or community, B, many people in the entire world, C, many people in at least two areas of the world, D, many people in a given continent at least, E, specific group of people with certain genetic predispositions.
E.
The answer is B. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention classification of bioagents, smallpox is placed in category A because it can pose a potential risk to national security, moderately easy to disseminate, require no action for public health preparedness, eradicated from the world, and causes low mortality rates.
A.
Yes, the answer is A. It can pose a potential risk to national security. Anthrax may be attractive to the terrorists to use as a bioweapon. Why is anthrax considered the most dangerous weapon to be used by terrorists? A. Rapid person to person contamination. B. Spores are odorless and tasteless. C. Spores last for only a few hours. No vaccine and medication is available. And E. Difficult to produce and disseminate.
A.
The answer is B. Spores are odorless and tasteless. This is the key of the MCQs. This is the YouTube link of our channel. Please like and subscribe, and thank you very much.